Morphine drip. It's what we remember, he said, as if clinging to a frayed thread tossed to a man overboard in a storm. Outside, a few parked cars, inside a dim bluish light. Frogs croaking in the woods, gin rickeys under an August moon, the violet night. He said something about a boy named Jim, his pants down to his ankles, his tuxedo shirt unbuttoned, long baby hairs on smooth cheeks. Never underestimate the comfort sin can provide, he said. A lifetime of bedtime stories all to your lonesome. Skin crinkled around his eyes, his dry lips pressed feebly around a straw. So this collection, or the way I view it, is that there's a question embedded in the title. How much comfort, if any, does sin provide? People are tempted by it, but what solace or consolation does it even provide? And this next story has had a different tone than that one. It is called Us. And this is a rare story. I never write to writing prompts, or almost never. And a friend sent me these first 3 sentences and asked me to write a story to them. So on a whim, I did. And this is what came of it. Us. Torch agreed to let Bianca drive us there, our 16-year-old daughter, who treated us like new hires, the ink still wet on her driver's license. I stretched out in the back seat, giving what I felt was an Oscar-worthy performance of person with a frontal lobotomy reading Us magazine. Torch sat up front, sipping from a 24-ounce styrofoam cup of coffee, trying not to antagonize the beast. He found what worked best was to ask Bianca about her out-of-control friend, Chloe. While it calmed him to hear the crazy effed-up shit his daughter wasn't perpetrating but merely reporting, it had the opposite effect on me. Did he think Bianca, who could go from sullen to hysterical in the time it took to read a tweet, was merely standing by, observing with her clipboard, while Chloe posted nudes of herself on Snapchat? I was not so wishfully naive. And now, on our way to the backwoods hippie spa that was Torch's Christmas gift to our love, as he put it, I honed my focus like nothing could possibly matter as much as this photo of Justin Timberlake feeding a parking meter in the Stars, They're Just Like Us feature. Angelina, shopping for a doll for her daughter. They shop at Target. Gwen Stefani and her son selling lemonade in front of her Beverly Hills home. They sell fresh lemonade. I wanted them to include a photo of Ben Affleck sneaking out to have sex with his nanny, coupled with the headline, "They sleep with their children's caretakers, just like us." Torch would need to pee again in 10 miles. A vacation with him was similar to the way some go wine tasting, only instead of stopping at wineries, we stopped at every gas station convenience store along the way. I'd watch as he weighed the options of a Coke versus another coffee versus a 5-hour energy drink. He'd buy them all, along with a Snickers and some beef jerky and Pringles, as if preparing to be stranded alongside the road. And then just 30 minutes later, he'd say, "I'm sorry, but I have to pee again," sounding surprised, as if he couldn't explain the runic vagaries of his urination patterns. He'd end up so hopped up on caffeine he wouldn't sleep, so his gift to our love would be an exercise in insomnia, accompanied by hairy hippies soaking nude in the hot springs and smiling their blissed out Om fucking Shanti smiles. And I'd have to listen to him complain all the way home about how he needed to be less stressed for the next round of the resistance. His activism was questionable, though. He'd stocked up on a ridiculous amount of medical marijuana after the election, in fear the feds would take away his anxiety medication. He wouldn't sign petitions or call his representative because he said he didn't want any of his info in an FBI database. He did go to marches, but mainly to sell the Make America Resist Again hats he had made. Our living room was cluttered with thousands of them. He got angry when I donated the profits to Planned Parenthood. The resistance, I said, remember? Bianca passed one car, then another. I felt us careening. The state of my pretend lobotomy was making me dizzy. "You're speeding," I finally said. "It's legal to go 5 miles over the speeding limit. You're going 10 over. It's a 4-lane highway. It's our safety. Stop trying to control me. I'm not a fucking baby." "Don't use those words, darling," Torch said. "It hurts me to hear you use such language." None of the rules of the world seemed to matter anymore. Bianca sped up in a muted version of "fuck you." The haughty jut of her jawline scared me. "My mother told me that being a good parent was choosing your battles, But the battles I'd chosen, I'd lost. My troops had deserted me. Is this how the stars live? I wondered. Is Reese Witherspoon really just like us? Does she pick up Us magazine and stare longingly at the sparkling champagne dress falling off Jessica Alba's divinely shaped breasts and think, how? How? Does she wonder how George Clooney figured out everything about life, everything, and hope that maybe he has incontinence problems and wears a diaper to the Oscars? Will she look at pics of Gwyneth Paltrow with her stylish, rollicking tribe and be reassured that somebody knows how to live? I'm sorry, but I've got to pee, Torch said. Bianca grudgingly slowed down at the next exit. We all stood in the hallway waiting for the bathroom. Bianca madly Snapchatting Chloe, Torch wriggling about like a 5-year-old boy in his Make America Resist Again hat. Me wondering what the doctor would say if I asked for an actual lobotomy. You could have taken a family portrait of us then for our Christmas card. We were there, together, our fluids binding us, as if forever. And I thought I'd close with just a portion of a story. The story is called Gerald and Celeste. And in my book, Fissures, I wrote a number of 100-word stories about them. And I think of any story in that collection I heard the most. The stories about Gerald and Celeste seem to people like them the best. And so I took those 100-word stories and pieced them together into one longer story and added things, of course, and edited things out. And that story, I mean, now it's a more conventional length story in this book. It's also turned into a novel, an epistolary novel that I'm just finishing up and hope to publish. But I'll read just the first few segments of this to give you a taste of it. Gerald and Celeste. Celeste traced the swirl of cigarette smoke with her finger as it laced through the light glowing from the lava lamps ringing her bed. As the smoke disappeared into the candy-colored light, she wondered where it went, particles dissipating beyond sight. She imagined Gerard picnicking with his family, lolling about on a summer day, playing hide and seek with his children. He told her stories about his kids, but she never asked him about them. She didn't want to know about his other life. If he died, no one would call her. She'd go to their hotel room next Tuesday, room 42, curse him for not showing up, and then write him an angry email. Hands clasping and unclasping, she liked to say. She cupped her hand over the smoke to try to save it, then blew it all away. She wouldn't even go to his funeral. After he had children, Gerard saw each person as another son or daughter. The pinch of worry in a mother's eyes just after midnight, the dreadful wait until the front door creaked open once again. Safety, or was it? He wanted to tell Celeste he touched her with such care, even as they lay in the strewn sheets of another cheap hotel room. He had asked his friend Eli to watch his children, Brooke and Alexander, so that he could be with her that afternoon. They were so small, just 5 and 3 years old. They didn't know where their father was. Right now, they might be crossing a street without anyone holding their hands, barely aware of the cars speeding past, the drama within. Will you tie my hands behind my back? She asked. He did so gently. She told him not to toy with her, but then he found himself a yo-yo on her string. He asked questions. She told him nothing. But we fucked, he said. You called it making love, she replied. But you said it was fucking. Up and down. She snapped her gum as she did yo-yo tricks. Reach for the moon, hop the fence, punching bag. He was so dizzy, the whir of the string buzzing in his ears. But then everything stopped, and he lay his head in her lap. To ask why was futile. Why not, she'd say, with a casual flick. When Celeste thought of Gerard late at night, she emailed him tracks of yearning, sexy songs. Sorry to rape your ears, she wrote. She enjoyed the thought of her songs popping up on his iPod years later as he sat in his living room with his wife, Natalie. When he said her name, she hated the sound of it. I love this song, Natalie would say. Where did you get it? She imagined Gerard's eyes blinking, then gazing off into a memory of the two of them, an ornery whiff of the past. True lovers are expert in constructing penitentiaries, she thought. She'd hammer a nail into his hands for eternity. And that's kind of what she does. So there's more in this.